recording. Yeah, I can throw it on YouTube after and share with everybody, including yourself, of course. Yeah, so we can jump back to here. Is that how we should do things?
Yeah, let's start where we left off.
Awesome. So where we left off was going through all these epics here. These couple ones that I'm sharing, I will share my screen. That I'm sharing on my screen are what we talked about earlier. It's filtered by plant. It's in our one-on-one docs. We have it. But so, for example, this one should be wrapping up fairly quickly. We want to just one couple of last things that we delayed or pushed back to 12.0 or the new 12.0 from a couple weeks back. And so this one is deprecating the dynamic milestone pages. So I guess I'll spend a little bit of time here. But do you know what I'm talking about by when I say dynamic milestone page? Sounds confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this thing here, which already doesn't exist, so that's great. So yeah, so basically all the milestone pages in the past were based on title, and we removed that because we have group milestones now. So we can get rid of these pages. That's what that is. That's already scheduled, pretty straightforward. This is another good example. So there's a GitLab CE version of 10.0, and there's GitLab EE version of 10.0, and we're just getting rid of this page as it says here. So that's straightforward. This one is something that we've talked at length about. So create child epic from epic, quick actions, create issue from epic. So same thing as this one, create child issue from epic, create child epic from epic. This one is one that is a lot of people are annoyed about. So that's the one where, while inside an issue, I can change this epic. So while I'm inside this particular issue, I can change this epic by clicking a drop down here and selecting an epic. So that would be a great change. So right now you can do that as a quick action, but this will be able to do it in the UI directly. So that's these two. This one is also very straightforward. This is related merge request issue. So what I talked about last time, we're working on right now. This one I don't think we need to do. That's why it's in the backlog. But right now they're like this. So it's a check mark instead of showing the whole symbol. So sort of a small thing that I thought may need to address, but I don't think needs to be addressed. But it's there just in case. Threaded conversations and epics. Just a little bit of cleanup. Design wants this to be called threads officially, as opposed to discussion. So there's a couple places. And then API support. So again, pretty small things. So nothing, we're not creating anything new. For example, there's resolvability of discussions, what some people want, but I don't think it's super important that we need to tackle now. So that's why I purposely broke that out to another epic. That's really, really far in the future.
Sure.
So it's way down somewhere. Child, this one is, has some, okay, yeah, no, this is cleaning up this is finishing off child epic, so having system notes. So that's the only one remaining. We're working on it right now, as you can see. Keep going. Scope labels, we've talked about at length. So that is additional styling, some more background tech-ish things, some searching things, these are all about styling, making the system notes look better, email notifications. So basically every time we have this thing here, with scope labels, this will happen. I just checked it today on staging. It looks great. This is what will happen. It will show, added this and moved that. But then all these issues are make it so that this is one transaction and it will be communicated as such. So it will say, like we added this scope label and so on and so forth. So that's a good change to wrap those things. This is doing the tree in addition to the roadmap view, which we are already getting. And then also dragging and dropping, which is again really cool. So I think Annabelle already had a mock-up, yeah, for this. So this is, you can see that that's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited for that particular feature.
Yeah, definitely. And I think once we actually have sub issues, this would be even more, pick up more usage for GitLabbers in particular. So maybe that's something you might want to change the order of, because sub issues is fairly down low in the order. So something to consider. So there's issue list design. I think we're finishing it out. Yep. So that's what I showed you last time. We're working on that. Clone Epic, I think I talked about that last time. Valley Stream Analytics, we've gone through that. Manual ordering of issue list for backlog grouping, that's a really long name.
Yep.
But it's
the ability to drag around
exactly
issues. Yep. That's a good change.
So the design is pretty awesome. I fully expect that there will be more issues added. You can see one design here. So there needs to be some, I think it's ready to start development / design, so to be put into a thing. So I haven't pushed the team to add any more concepts yet, but I fully expect that we will have 2 or 3 follow-up issues after we start just digging into the first one. So that's why there's only one issue here, but typically what happens similar to some of the epics that I showed you, like there'll be some tech-ish stuff that needs to be cleaned up as we go along.
Great, yeah.
So that's why I purposely put, well, I didn't put a lot, but I expect this to go further a little bit. I think this might be a sub-epic of, no, this is, so this is doing the roadmap in the roadmap itself. Sorry, I mean viewing the child epics in the roadmap view itself. We sort of have the reverse. We have the roadmap in the child in the epic itself. So this is adding an epic view. So this is something that we might not need to do. So I'm not certain. This is one of those that I would really look at how people are using the roadmap view, especially in light of adding it to the epic page itself. Hide issue board labels. This is I think will be a welcome change.
Yeah.
And as we should do in GitLab and as we do in Plan, we just break them up as small as possible. So the first one is just toggling it, and then so every time you go to the same board, you have to retoggle it, and then the subsequent issue is saving that as a preference, so it's stored. And then if you think, for 5 minutes, you can do a bazillion different things. For example, you can let's see if we have some mock-ups. You can shrink them, for example. You can, instead of hiding them totally, you can take out the word so that there's just a bar, so like Trello. You can have ... and show like 5. So there's like so many variations, and I like this approach that we've chosen design-wise to take the most the most rough, the most coarse design first, and then as people express they need more granular control, then we add them. So then from a design perspective, effort perspective, it's slowest, it's iterative, and you don't block anything. So I think that's a great approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next gen board design, I put this all together as a parent epic with some sub epics, I believe. Yep. This is something at GitLab we just sometimes are so delayed in our work, and it is frustrating. So these are designs that Pedro put together, I don't know, a year ago, maybe 9 months ago, but they're pretty awesome, and I really like them. And so especially if we're making boards a strong category, this is where I want to run. So one of them is this one that doesn't seem too exciting, but they'll get more exciting as I move through these designs. This one is just introducing the scope. It's hidden behind a modal right now. We've had a lot of arguments over the years, actually, by now, about how this should be implemented. So for example, one thing we did very early on, which is quite interesting, just to give you a little bit of quick feedback, we do have some time, is that this stuff here, you know how it says plan UX debt?
Mm-hmm.
For a while, it was just like this. I think it was just milestone, but it was something similar to this, where it was just for a milestone, and it would be like this, and there would be like a lock symbol. And so you can see how for milestone it makes sense because you only have one milestone, or even for label it could make sense. And so it's locked, meaning it's configuration, so it's associated with board, whereas this it's associated with the user. So you can see it's sort of pretty slick UI, but you can see how it's also confusing because it's not the same concept, because one is filtering and one is associated with the board. So the current design and the decision back then was to do it as such, which is, you know, have a separate modal. And then we talked a lot about, do we even need to show this here? And then the final decision was back then was that we don't need to show it. You know, in retrospect, I don't think that was a good decision. I think now that it does make sense to show it. Back then, we were really thinking about how boards are being used by team workflows, like agile workflows. And we were really limited to that. So it was like moving from an issue from in dev to that type of thing. And so if you think about that, that's like, it's the plan team. And why do you even care to look at that? That's silly. But then boards have evolved to have a lot more usage. For example, like when we were thinking about this, we didn't think about milestone boards or assignee boards and just more boards in general. And so I think now it does make sense to show it. And so that's exactly what this does, is to show that, at least part of it, right? You can just see it here. You can see the scoping. So I think that would be a great change. So that's what this is.
Okay.
This is edit board config without modal. So this is doing the modal but without the modal. So doing this but without going into the modal. So once you have this thing here, then you can edit it directly. So you can see we're really chopping up these issues very small. This is, yeah, I'm going to watch the time, and I'll spend a little bit of time here because I think this is important. The other things I'll go a little bit more quickly because boards is important. So this concept here is, we don't, the milestones are associated with the board right now, as they should be. But you can, when you look at a board right now here, you can't change the milestone if there's a milestone associated with it, right? So you can click here and add a milestone, but if I choose this one, for example, if this is working correctly, it shouldn't let me choose milestone, right? So you see, I can't choose a milestone here because it's been pre-selected here. So that's a good design because it's very generic. This is a more opinionated design, which says that you should be able to change the milestone sort of on the fly because boards are associated with milestones. It's really from an agile workflow perspective. But you should still have a default one. So that's this view, right? So there's the default milestone, but you can change it with a drop-down click really quickly. So it's not associated with the board config, but it's also not associated, I guess it is, but it's not associated with the search. So you can do both really quickly. So this is the type of thing that Pedro had a lot of opinions about, again, more than half a year ago. And so that's how our boards are evolving, or the design has evolved. A lot of this was also inspired by Jira really refreshing their boards, again, over half a year ago, and having some of like really snazzy design and coming out with a lot of these things, whether it's swim lanes and so forth. And so that really leads to this particular design, where you can see you have column lists and row labels, or column lists, so just lists and rows, or columns and labels, and you can mix and match, and you can see columns, you can have assignees, and rows, you can have labels, or these things. So there's a lot more detail to be had in these issues, but you can see that there's more to do with boards that can be pretty interesting. And so that's what this is.
How should just going on in the future? How should I think about project level boards or attributes of a board versus filter attributes of a user of a given board, or maybe like a personal board? I think this is potentially going to be very confusing. I think it already is a little bit confusing for users, but I think moving forward, I think you're getting at the heart of trying to fix some of these issues.
Right. Exactly.
But like, also, if we're not careful, we're just going to make it even more confusing.
Yeah, a couple of responses to that. I think this will help because this, first of all, there's a little bit too much UI here, so that this looks scary. But
Yep.
What Pedro has put here is actually less confusing because it's more opinionated. It's actually less flexible. So one thing he wants to do is actually get rid of mixed lists. For example, I have an issue for that somewhere. So let me go back to a board. So you know how you can add any of these three lists. He wants to get rid of that. So that will definitely help. I have some epics later to talk about templates for boards and board types as well. So that will address some of the confusion because you just have a board and it's pre-configured for you.
Right.
And then the milestone thing, again, it will address that because it's one less thing to configure. You just start with a default milestone and you go from there. Whether it's for a team or for a personal use case and so on and so forth, again, this should help because there'll be types of boards, like whether it's a VSM board, whether it's a workflow board that is based on scope labels or something, or stages in the future. That will all come together. So in terms of complexity, the only additional dimension I see that we might add and will continue to dig this hole of complexity is swim lanes. Because you're adding a different dimension, and so that's obviously a level of complexity. Other places for complexity that we could be adding that will continue to dig this UX hole is more things in here, like this list, that you're able to filter by more things. So one of them that we want to do is by filter by project, because if you're at a group level, you want to filter by project. So that will add more complexity. But other than that, which is a lot already, but I don't think we're going to make it worse. I don't know if I'm convincing you, but I don't think we're going to make it worse because, at least if we stick with group boards and project boards, we're not going to make it worse in terms of complexity or like functionality. We're not adding more functionality. If anything,
Sure.
reducing it.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that is a step in the right direction. I think the balsamic mockup is not necessarily doing that particular issue any favors.
It's this one, yeah. I'll blame Pedro on that one. So Pedro, if you're watching this video,
It's not blame.
yeah. And also because, for example, he's trying to indicate like you can assign issues to people here, or boards to issues, and so he's trying to do a lot here. So, but like this issue is trying to scope down just for milestones in particular. So we're definitely not going to build everything, not even like these swim lanes that are indicated. But this is just reflecting this. But yeah, so that's where we're headed for boards. So that's next gen boards, and I made like sub epics here. So that will show up here. And I think I showed, right, okay. And then hide issue board labels, okay. This one is another hot topic, which like technically we could action on anytime. But this is one of those really annoying ones that like there's just so much of GitLab to fix. So this is exactly what it is, right? So not like this, right? But you can do it anywhere and like there's so many places to do filtering and searching in GitLab, including boards and stuff like that. So this is something that I think one would need to be very careful to do because it can get complicated really quickly. It can become Jira query language, JQL.
Mm-hmm.
And like how do you balance the UI from clicking versus using a mouse to navigate and make those knots, and so on and so forth. So I've tried to separate them out in the past by focusing on certain things first, but people want more power. So this is pretty messy.
Is there any other place in the application where we're using Boolean logic?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Not labeled. Yeah, we have this, which is sort of. So in any place inside GitLab, when you have this, when you do label, you can do no label, right? So that's sort of a knot. So let me go. Oops. Let me show you issues so that you can see the gamut of it. So with milestones, you have named milestones. You have started and upcoming, which are special dynamic ones. You have none, meaning an issue does not have a milestone. And you have any, which means an issue can have.
So there's hard-coded logic.
None. Yeah, so these are two logic, right? So any is a superset of none. So you can have a third one that is non-null, right? so you can have potentially somebody crazy could put like not milestone none. And like, do we want to allow that? What does that mean? Like, so that's like a really messy UX problem if you think about it, right? But we have these to start off with right now. And so this applies for, say, like assignee as well, right? So for most of these, right, assignee, you have none and any. Labels as well, and then like weight, I think, has none and any. Yep. So it can become pretty interesting. Keep closing this tab. Let me close these tabs. So
okay.
Inherent child epic start date, blah blah blah. So this is once we have those. We already have child epics right now. So if you recall, this from milestone logic uses the immediate children issues only. But it'll be really cool and really useful. It's just inherits going downwards.
Yep.
And if you just sort of think about it for 5 minutes, the best way to do it is just to always look at your immediate children, and don't try to be fancy and do recursive. Or if anytime there's an event, let that bubble up. But anyways, that's like an implementation piece.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so with the thinking bee, from a usability perspective, convention over configuration, to even remove the ability to edit a start and a due date if it has child epics and issues?
That's an interesting one. I mean, you can argue that that's the case right now, right? I mean, there's clearly not a lot of usage with these things, so I haven't seen an argument either way.
Yeah.
But by default, right now, when you create a new issue, a new epic, it's doing the auto inherit one. So maybe that is true from what you said. So if you just let it be, it will just do the inheritance automatically. So the default case is that one. So I think that's a good default.
Yeah.
Real. No, what did I do? Can I not scroll anymore? So give me a second. These are, did it break? Okay, I don't know what I did. So, we'll just keep going until we can't click more. Real-time board lists. So real-time has always been a thing at GitLab. Like it seems like every couple months, somebody says, let's make everything in GitLab real-time, and makes a meta issue or an epic to do that. And obviously it's a lot harder than that. So there's, to my knowledge, there hasn't been any concerted effort to do something like that. And to my knowledge, it's fairly difficult right now that I've stopped asking engineering. So to say like every time you create a new feature, just make it real time by default. Like I've stopped asking for that because like every time I've been told that that's a lot of work. So this is one of them, one of the places in GitLab to make real time. There's a great reason to do it for just the contents of the board, because you have people looking at boards all the time and they want to have it shown. And so many customers have expressed that this would be very helpful for them. And so this is less about updating the contents of the issue, even inside, let's say, an issue card, because that will probably not be real time required that much. But the fact that issues are moving around in the board, that will actually be more interesting. So that's what this is focused on. So that's why I call it real-time board lists in particular.
Yep, makes sense. We ran into that yesterday as we were collaborating in another meeting.
Here you go. Yep.
Had to keep refreshing the board.
So real-time sidebars. So that's another one.
Yep.
So I think this is less important. And
Same meta narrative, but for sidebar information.
Yeah. What's interesting is it's not a great experience because sometimes when you do a quick action, when you do a quick action, it doesn't update it. But when you make an action in the sidebar directly, obviously it updates it because it's you're interacting with the front end UI. So there's a lot of inconsistencies there. I pushed for the UX team to have some good like guidelines and put in their design system. I don't think it's very complete, or I might be wrong. But that's getting very picky from things like when you go from here to here, you see that spinner there, and then like, does it do async? Does it do it after? And so on and so forth. Is it blocking? And so there's a lot of stuff there. More powerful issue boards. It's not a great name, but I wanted to group sub-epics into it, so I just came up with this name. Collapse issue board lists is a very well requested one. Again, saving it to separating the front end and back end. Edit issues without leaving board. Again, this came with the designs that Pedro put together for next gen boards last year. It's doing this, which is really cool. I love it. So you can do everything in the board. So that's really, really powerful. It's a Trello competitor now after that. Yep. This one, I'm not convinced it's that important. I needed it once, but I needed actually another feature. But let's see if there's a mockup. I thought there was a mockup. Okay, there's a mockup here. Yeah. So being able to drag like 3 things and move them over all at once. So pretty cool. A lot of these came from like every now and then there'll be a big announcement saying like Atlassian bought Trello, and then everybody at GitLab has used Jira in our Trello, and then everybody will say like we should have all these amazing features in GitLab. So a lot of these are coming from there. So that you can have a little bit of context there. This is what I talked about earlier with the filter by thing. So filter by the project. This will be super helpful because I was looking at the release post today, and then what I see is that when you do this in GitLab, you can add projects, right? You can add Enterprise Edition, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I think this is like customized to me, and then so I'm not subject to a group, and this is super flexible, and they call this like cross. The new feature at least will have pipelines, and it's cross-project pipelines. So none of the planned features have any of this right now, and so we're struggling because a lot of customers need this where you need a project here and you need a group there, but they don't want them to be all under the same group because it's really messy. And I think that's a reasonable request. So I understand why the teams designing this feature didn't shove this inside a group, or maybe it's already in a group, but have it like at the instance level, and then you can just add whatever projects you care about. Mm-hmm. So before we get to that, what can we do that eases the pain in the spirit of GitLab, like a small primitive, as it were? And to do that is, again, if you have a board, you can pick the projects you want to filter by. And so even though your group sees like 10 projects, I filter by one specific project. And so you can save it, part of configuration, and so forth. And so this applies to the board as well as the list, actually. Group list as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then now this is failing me, which I'm annoyed. We released something. Wait, did we? I don't think we released. So this is quality management, so there's not much here to say other than that there's a community member that is sort of working on it, sort of dropping in and out every like 1 week or two, saying that they're working on it. They last pinged me this Monday, I guess, and I responded. So there is a little bit of pickup for this one, but I think we agree it's not super uber important, but it's just here. So I have no idea why this is not working. I'm really annoyed, but we will just have to use this. And then we'll sort by start date, which it is, and then
Give me about 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay.
Please.
Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Okay.
So this is great. So you just went back to the Epic list and filtered by date, or sorted by date.
Yeah, start date, correct. Right. And so as we go further, yeah, we're breaking good time. I mean, obviously, as we go further out, they're less important. So like the rest are not even that important in my opinion. Multiple milestones per issue or merge request. I think I've spoken to you about this, addressing the issue that a milestone can represent a sprint and a point in time release, and so on and so forth. Maybe there's some integration with the release object that was invented a couple of releases ago, but for now, I think this is a good change on its own. And it stops the bleeding, and I think it's a great change. This one is about blocking issues and sub-issues. So blocking issues and then parent-child issues. I don't even think I have mock-ups for any of this. Yeah, I don't. But it's exactly what you think it is. So dependency issues, and then parent-child issues are exactly the same concept as child ethics. So I think that would be a welcome change, especially for GitLabbers who care about front-end, back-end things or difference. More real-time. This is the crazy Google Docs one. And so this is the one I think I shared with you, or at least mentioned. There's all this talk about like the technical deliverables that need to be had to make this possible. So this is I think a pretty large piece of work to make happen.
This one pops up every once in a while.
Exactly, it's one of those ones. Yep. Stacked burn down and burn up charts. And don't think maybe I've shown you this. I forget. Oh, we have burn.
We talked about this.
Have we? Okay, yeah. So there's burn down charts in GitLab, and I've heard of burn up charts. I did a little bit more research when people started pinging me about it. I think it's a great concept. It's technically more information, actually. I think. So we technically don't need both, but I think it's great to have both. And this one puts in an issue board. We really literally haven't really iterated on burn down charts since I joined GitLab. I think we put them on. No, I was here when we invented them. That's it. And we put them in project milestones and then group milestones, and that's it. So we haven't.
Okay, gotcha.
So I think it's a much need of. Burn down charts is one of those things that is. It's like along with those statistics things, not statistics, like metric things, right? So you could argue that if we have a better vision for VSM and charts and cycle analytics, it really should be grouped into there, I think, because then like burn down charts are just like team workflows and agile and stuff like that. But like the future is really using like burn down charts have been here since the beginning of humankind, but of Agile, but the future is really about VSM and psychoanalytics. So how does that fit into that world? I think is whoever works on that, then I would recommend that they think of that together.
Okay.
This one is pretty obvious. It's something that we just have avoided doing because we don't want to add just too much crap to this area here. But there's, people will ask for it. Surprisingly, not a lot. So that's why I wouldn't super action on it. It's sort of like a waiting demand type of thing. Because we've had related issues and related merge requests forever, right? And you notice nobody really asks for, I want to see all the labels here. So to me, that's an indicator that's not super, super important.
Is there label order somewhere? Did we already talk about that one?
Label, I'm sorry?
Label order.
They're ordered. We talked about this, I think.
Was it yesterday?
It wasn't. No. It might have been a while ago, but Dimitri just got annoyed and just implemented it. I think that's what he just did. This was like about 2 months ago. All labels are ordered everywhere now. I'm pretty sure. So they're in whatever lexicographic. I don't know those fancy words, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I meant. So by default they're ordered, but I was asking about the ability to drag labels around to order them yourself.
Oh, we did not talk about that. In what context?
Okay. Just curious if customers have asked for something like that.
What do you mean drag them around, like in an issue, like on the sidebar or somewhere else?
Anywhere. So on this page, for example, maybe you always wanted GitLab Premium to be the first label.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually never been a thing, surprisingly, given how picky people are when they use it.
Well, maybe that means no customers are asking for it. So
yeah,
it's a good thing we haven't talked about it.
I mean, it's given the crazy long tail of features that I can never think of that somebody in the world has thought of, I'm surprised that has not come up. I've never seen that, and I've been at GitLab for a while. Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. The only remotely interesting thing that I'll bring up is when, obviously, I think it's quite clear that GitLab is not using the roadmap view because nobody is asking me for features on it. So that's a concern because it's supposed to be pretty important. But in the early days, when people discovered and they wanted to start using it, what they wanted would be to sort of have a section that's planned and another section that's managed, all in the same view. And so you can see how that's sort of hard. It's a lot of UI to make that work really well, and it has to be really smooth. And you can't just do this, right? Oh my God, what's wrong? You want something like this essentially, but you want a group by type of thing, right? So, so that's the only place where when you said drag label, that's what came to my mind, because in that case you would maybe drag things around. So that's all that I thought of.
Yeah, I think roadmaps is something I'd like to revisit if we have time in this hour.
Sure.
But I mean, it was just a thought, because you could theoretically have a use case where someone is saying, okay, I always want this label at the top. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, another logical question is, so when we launch scope labels in the next release, how will scope labels be sorted? Will they just be interwoven using the same sorting, or will they be always at the front, always at the end? And then if they're sorted using the same algorithm, what's sorted, the key or the value?
So they will be interwoven because scope labels, there's literally no logic, from my understanding, that marks them as such. And so from the sorting algorithm perspective, it's just the title, right? So I don't know how colon is in the lexicographical ordering, but it's just like you see here, right? So C comes before G, so therefore it's like this, and that's it.
Yeah, and there's no logic to essentially mandate exclusivity on scope labels.
Exactly. The logic is applied. The exclusivity is applied when you apply the label. That's when the logic is considered. And so when we ship this, it's not shipped yet, right? So potentially, if I take this epic and put category issue boards, category project management, when I
Yep.
ship it, nothing will happen to that epic. Like both labels will still be there. But the moment I add another category colon label, then it will remove the first two. And so we purposely did that because like I think that's a good sort of migration approach.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It is going to mess up a lot of our issues internally.
So that, I mean, that's one of the reasons we picked double colon, so that we don't mess that up. I created these labels, so that's why I know what I'm doing. And so I actually see some people using double colon on purpose, but we purposely picked double colon because we looked at the database, and there was not a lot of GitLab.com customers using single colon, and none of us were using double colon. We were using single colon. Sorry, there was some people using single colon, but very little people using double colon. And I work with marketing to send emails to all the people using double colon, and 0 of them has responded to me. So we should be somewhat safe.
Yeah. Okay. So pro tip: if you want more than one scoped label for a given scope, make sure you get it in before the release.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's funny.
So that's where were we? Okay, this one is interesting. So that's labels. This one is interesting. It's one of those annoying tech that I really hate it. Nobody's complaining about it, but it'll be great to get fixed ones. I don't want to spend too much time on it because again, I don't think it's high priority. But basically, it rears its head when you say you want to assign an issue to a contributor that's outside your project, like a community contributor, but you want to assign them to like a confidential issue, for example. And like these weird edge cases, right? Like, why would you even do that? But like that you should be able to support that. And so there's all these things. And so basically what I'm saying is that you should be able to assign anybody in your instance to any single issue, and there should be nobody should block you from that. And so the approach I'm advocating for is just more control from the user and less trying to be smart. That applies for autocomplete and for permissions and so on and so forth. What else do I want to say about this? I don't want to get too deep into this. But basically, again here, ability to invite users to a confidential issue. So what Dimitri and Sean wanted to do was like create a brand new feature to do that. And I'm like, no, I do not want to support like a feature just to do this. Again, this is like a really edge case, but there are sometimes which this needs to happen. Maybe probably security scenarios, I guess. But if I have my design here, which Sean and Dimitri do agree with, then you don't have to worry about this. The concept is that you can assign anybody to any issue, even though they're Joe Schmo and they don't belong to the project. But the moment that they're assigned, they can see everything in the issue. So you have that. That's why I call it decoupling, because you've decoupled permissions of viewing the issue from being assignability, essentially. So another delicate thing, for example, is when you click this, there's some weird logic here that there's good logic that doesn't show everybody in the instance. But what I'm advocating for is you actually show everybody in the instance, but you order it in a way that you will never see the people that you don't care about. But when you do want to add that random person for that edge case, you can. So that's what I'm doing. So that's a lot of knowledge I don't think you would care about anytime soon.
I think it's interesting because so then what do you let them see? Everything that would be scoped to that issue then?
Yes, because you've decided to assign them to the issue. My contention is that, of course, you want them to see the issue, and so they can see everything in the issue. And so I'm putting more control in the hands of the user, that they have to be careful, that you can't just randomly assign somebody. And then there's some discussion about a good design to make that so that that GitLab will have you make a mistake, like there'll be a blocking modal or something that says, "Are you really want to assign Victor, who's not at GitLab?" And then you say, "Yes, I do," and then they can see everything.
Yeah. Do you have like follow-on iteration issues here to basically like revoke access to someone who's not in the project but was given access to an issue via assignment?
I think this one is it, but I don't think revoke is there specifically. So I can add that.
Yeah, this one gets tricky because now you're starting to get in all sorts of permission edge cases. Should probably involve Jeremy and manage as well on this one.
But yeah, again, it's not broken, so it's one of those things. It's like okay, like nobody's like it's not broken, so it works. But it's like notifications. It's not broken, but like it could be so much better, right?
Yeah, but you know what's interesting about this one though is like this concept of least privilege access, and our permissions are very coarse grained,
right?
And so theoretically, like you should be given the least amount of access possible. And now we are a very open and transparent company, but many other companies going through digital transformation are not like us.
Right.
And so I could see this as like an incredibly valid use case, especially for very tightened down organizations that would want to only give someone access to a particular issue, that they don't need to know anything else about the project, just a single issue. Right. And then maybe when their piece is done, like in that issue, like they're essentially kicked out. That could be, to me, that's like the most logical use case of the feature, but obviously would require some user validation.
Right. So that's interesting. I didn't think about that, and that reminds me of somebody in security created an issue last week that I should probably link to here. So if I can't find it in 20 seconds, I will give up and do it offline. And I can't find it, so I'll find it later. And okay. Share my screen. But the person in security said they wanted a ability just to do exactly what you just said. Just create an issue, and by default, nobody can see it at all except for themselves, and then just whitelist people who can see the issue. And then
whitelisting of issues, interesting.
Yeah, and so I was trying to quiz that person more on like, why do you want this? And like, I'm sure there's a good reason.
Is that for like a personal kind of to-do list?
No, I don't think it was that. I think it was they just like working in some security workflow that needs that. This is like the red team, which I Googled, which means that they attack us on purpose, and then there's a blue team.
Yeah, correct.
So I guess they're doing some really fun things to hack GitLab, and then maybe they need a workflow to, I guess it makes sense. They don't want to share that, obviously, with everybody. Yeah, so that's there was a issue that flew by my way requesting that, and that may be super related to this if we do it correctly. Okay, so that's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah,
bringing that up.
Thank you.
So that's this one. That's pretty exciting, just from a like technical, but like not super urgent. Bulk edit improvements, again, something sort of long tail of GitLab that we should do, but just hasn't been done. Bulk edit exists for issue lists. It's a semi-okay experience in my opinion, but it doesn't exist for the group list. So this is the group, and so you don't see it. Have you ever even used this feature?
I have not. Actually,
yeah, so I think that's a problem. But you can do this, right? You can select multiple of these and then like change labels all at once type of thing. So people want this for the group level, of course. So there are people using this, so that's good. Because people are requesting at the, we're calling it bulk edit and group versions of that, as well as dashboard versions of that. Requirements management, that's been slow because like the customers that were promised to us have not really been appearing. It's also a chicken and egg thing because we're not really going after it. So that's where it is. If I click into it, I don't even think there's a lot.
Yeah, we've spoken about this one at length before. You have the MVC there.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was a ton more past the MVC.
No, there's not at all. Okay. But yeah, no, that's where it is. Yeah, I remember speaking to you with it, especially strategically in regards to quality and service desks.
Yeah, that's right.
Few issues in calendar. This is something that was recently brought up by a couple of folks, which is pretty interesting, because marketing asked for something similar. And sorry, let's see if I can take this call. No, I don't. It's not a call, it's a notification. So yeah, so calendar showing issues on issue due dates. So just like this, Google Calendar just show issues there. So I've always been like, oh, why are we reinventing Google Calendar? That's really silly. So marketing has been asking for something similar like this. And then I told you that we're able to solve some of their problems using the issue and clone epic functionality.
Yeah.
Because if you recall, I said like they have marketing events and whatnot, so this would work for them. Another interesting thing is professional services at GitLab. They apparently, I did not know this. They apparently need to use time tracking. So that's great. I didn't even know like anybody at GitLab uses time tracking.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
I don't think they're using it, but I think Paul might be making them use it now. I think that's like what I saw in the issue description, which is pretty funny. But basically what they do is they build customers apparently by the hour or whatever, and per project. And so they can, I created some issues for them that will improve time tracking to do that, because we have time tracking reports, so they can actually, so that's got to be in some Epic somewhere else. But they also want this so that this will be when they go to a customer, they have some type of engagement and they can do some load balancing of individuals in the professional services team. So that's why they said.
Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. Actually, I really like this as a potential feature.
Yeah, I mean,
if you apply the same filters as boards to this, then you could you could have like the exec view of like, hey, what's my PS team focusing on this month or this quarter, and then you could even drill into like a specific project that has individual due dates. So I think there is a lot of value for that use case. There's probably not a ton of value for GitLab releases, because everything is due on the same day every month. So
right, exactly. Cool. So I was hesitant to do something like this for a long time because we have the Gantt chart, the roadmap view, and I'm like, why are we reinventing another timeline based view? So I think that's still technically.
I think it's different. I think it's a different use case though, right? Because the roadmap view is more of like what I would consider like a traditional product view, and this view is more of like a project view, or at least has aspects of project. And then also like, here's the first feature to get like the Brinkman household to start using GitLab, I think.
Right. Like
a lot of people I've talked to like manage their own like personal family activities and schedule and stuff with with Trello or Jira or something.
Exactly.
This could be one of those things that like I start to adopt it for a family. So anyway, just an interesting thought, but I like this directionally.
Yeah. No, you're true. Like replace your kitchen calendar with this.
Have like a big flat screen in the kitchen, right? That just shows your.
All right. But yeah, it's again, like when do we put this in the laundry list of things we want to do? There's a lot. As you can see, there's a lot here. Extended, bulk manage. Oh, this is really crazy. As a feature, this is really straightforward, and this was created like 3 years ago, I'm gonna say. Yeah, I'm right. So I know all the issues that were created 3 years ago, and this is one of them. It turns out the reason why so people want this because like they don't want to go and just do this, right? That's really dumb. Like I want to know like I'm subscribed to everything and just keep unsubscribing everything, right? That's a very reasonable request. And the reason we can't do this is it's just technical reasons, and not can't, but it's a lot of work. And so we've scoped out the work to do it, and it's actually all here. And we've actually done that like a long time ago to scope out this work. And so this is one of those issues that like if you dare to comment on it, Like you'll get 2 weeks of people commenting, "I want this. Why haven't you shipped it? It's been 3 years," like type of thing, and then like and things like that. But the good thing is like the engineering folks have already. The engineering folks have said this is really difficult to do for these reasons, and we said we still want it. And then the engineering team says, okay, this is how we need to do it correctly if we were to do it. And
Okay.
so it's like when you see the words migrate, it's probably not a good thing, right? Like you need to do like a lot of back-end changes.
Yeah. So they're okay. So they're essentially having to migrate the subscription flag to a new database table.
Exactly to support this at scale.
Gotcha.
I think it was something about like when you can't surface all that information like on a view because you're querying all the issues at the same time or something like that, which is crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's something that I think GitHub shipped not too long ago. So it's come up. It's one of those things like, oh, they have it now, right? So yeah, maybe like a month or two ago, I think. So these are just continuing on to portfolio management type of thing, nothing too crazy. So I just grouped it all together. So these are all sub-epics.
Okay.
Sorry, cleaned up this description templates. This is, I know James, I don't know if you've been following, pretty sure you were here when James was doing that. He did a lot of description, just a lot of templating stuff in groups and projects and all that stuff. So this is would be following in those footsteps and bringing the description template things in line with all the design that James had. I think James used for like a group level description template, he specified like this project serves as the group's version. And so this would serve directly the same thing, which is really cool. This is just really silly design debt that's been in GitLab for like probably 5 years. So how this works is default description templates, I think is an EE feature. I forget, but anyways, as you know, description templates are source controlled, right? They're in the .GitLab file, right? Because I believe the default, like when you first create a new issue, you see something there. That thing there, that's actually not source controlled. That's actually stored in the database, and
Right.
so which is crazy, right? And then this like asymmetry has been in GitLab forever. Like this is like an 8-point something release. It's really crazy that this was his first ship. And so this just makes it harmonized so that you use it into the thing. And then this is like a fun epic to do if you're like into migration and communicating with customers. Like fun, and like I'm not being cynical. Like it's just fun. When I was just working through this, like it's just a shame again, going back to whatever, but it's a shame that I couldn't like execute on this because it's just so fun. Like to know you have to get ready. You have to talk to people in the product. Then you have to migrate things over, and then you have to disable something and talk to them, and then finally clean it up. So this is something that would be just fun to do, and it's really, I don't know, it's just fun to clean up stuff sometimes, like clean up like your really dirty house or something like that. And that one is just gives me those good feelings. I don't know why that one specifically. Issue page functionality. There's always more you can do in the issue page. So that's why these are again sub-epics. This one everybody wants, track issue, like source controlling it or version controlling it at least. Pinning a comment, copying votes, confidential comments, saw from of people commenting on moved issues, Salesforce integration, so more and more of the same.
Hey, I have a question here.
Please.
This is mirroring or muddying the waters between turning GitLab into an issue tracker and a forum.
Right.
One of the things that's come up recently is the ability for us to have like first-class citizen moderators. We thought about including that as part of an issue. Essentially how you have moderators on Reddit, like a given subreddit, where one, there could be like an approval flow for a moderator, or there could be moderators listed in the sidebar that says, hey, these are the moderators for this project or this sub-project or whatever. It's something that's come up. I think you could implement moderators like with the existing primitives that we already have, but it's not necessarily a first-class citizen, right? Because like if a moderator went in and deleted a comment, like you'd probably want like you wouldn't just want that to disappear off of the thread. You'd want to say like, hey, moderator deleted, this comment or something along those lines.
So yeah, we have, I'm pretty sure we have a bunch of those issues listed.
Okay.
There's got to be an epic or something called moderate. I'll dig that up.
Nope, you went on mute.
I'm sorry, I just said I'm typing some notes here. Moderation tools epic. So we have, sorry, I was going to click share screen. I just clicked mute. Share. So we have a lot of issues there. Okay, I'm not going to go look for them. But the thinking, like when I think Roger O, I don't know, can't pronounce his last name or don't recall it, is on our security team doing, I don't know what his title is, but like does make sure like there's no spam and stuff at GitLab. And I'm talking with him a while back, like maybe half a year back, and just understanding of how we do moderation at GitLab, because like he was the first person that really was thinking about this when Kathy hired him, is really like the subreddit analogy is just we use groups, and so all those issues that we were supposed to build for him that we haven't, is just making moderation tools better, but putting them all at the group level so that you can do all your moderation, like the group admin has all that functionality. And so I think what's missing is exactly what you said, like you can go in and delete a comment, but it's not granular enough, right? So you can't give them 3 strikes type of thing. You can't save that information easily. You can't, I think there was like banning a user, but with time limits and stuff like yeah, we went through that exercise of identifying all those features even before that person joined. And there was an engineer that was really passionate about those things. And this came up when we created Service Desk, which is pretty interesting. Because when we created Service Desk, there was this great fear that I don't think it's been realized, well, maybe because we don't have a lot of usage, about now anybody can create an issue because you can abuse that email address, right? And then you're opening spam to everybody in the world. So in that context, a lot of moderation things came up. But again, that's a laundry list of issues somewhere hidden, issue tracker that I would take up and share with you.
Okay.
Milestone change events for system notes. So one of those things, we've already done this for labels. But so these system notes, to make them for milestones, actually are events instead of just in a table stored. And then once we have that, we can use that for VSM and other uses.
Right.
Exposing an API and so forth. And we can even do data analysis a year ago, as I claimed. More than a year ago. So this is a really great, I don't think I've shared this vision with you, have I? Unified to do some, maybe in passing.
Oh man, I was just about to ask about to do, so I'm glad we're talking about it.
So we can go deep a little bit. So with 25 minutes left, we can, do you want more time to go over the rest? Do you want to just say like it's not necessary? We're actually at the end. So you know what? Let's see. Give me 2 seconds. Let me use 3 minutes to go through the rest and come back to unified to-dos and applications. Does that work?
Yeah, great.
Okay. So yeah, because the rest are pretty small. Filter by created. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Resolvability, as I mentioned earlier. So that you have a merge request, have them in issues and epics as well. Custom workflow, we've talked about that. VSM, we've talked about that. And then, what was here? This one is just adding more charts throughout GitLab. We have this thing in GitLab that we shipped one version of, and we haven't really done anything, which is terrible. We have this, and the thinking is we want more. but this wasn't, the division here is not very good because it's not in line with VSM. And then we have now GitLab Insights from Mech's team being thrown into GitLab. So there's a lot of good stuff in the pipeline, but it's not positioned well together. And I think that would need to be fixed. That's all I have to comment about analytics more broadly. Cross-group, cross-project issue boards. That's what I mentioned like maybe an hour ago.
Sure.
About the operations dashboard. And yeah,
explanatory.
Exactly. And then custom emoji and awarding emoji. That's just before doing custom emoji, just cleaning it up. So I don't even want to click on that, but that's exactly what it sounds like.
Actually, I'm not sure. Can you? What is award emoji?
Oh, just award just means react to. It's just the word we use. Just when we do this, when I click a thumbs up, that's awarding an emoji.
Okay. So what is this issue particularly about?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So it's just like there's some tech debt, as you can see here. There's making it like when you do this is sort of really not correct. Some of this, there's no tabs. Like if you look at Slack, we're just copying Slack with these things. And just before we make custom emojis, essentially just making sure this experience is cleaned up.
Okay, cool. Makes sense.
So on to this crazy idea I had like maybe 8 months ago now. It's really good. I really like it. I went through a couple of iterations on it. I shared this with Jeremy. He's on board with the concept, maybe not the exact. It's still lacking a lot of implementation details. The reason I went to Jeremy is because he's managed and he's doing activity thread stuff, and then there's a lot of overlap because you think to-dos, notifications, activity thread. Matei, who's designer on Manage, I believe, had a lot of great concepts here too. He worked on it a little bit, and I just love this concept. I don't love the concept. I'm annoyed that that to-dos and notifications are so messed up. I like it because there's an opportunity to make it better. But it's one of those things because it's not broken. There's almost no incentive to improve it. And again, I think zero customers have asked for this. Everybody at GitLab hates notifications and to-dos and wants it to become better. So this is like the strongest dichotomy of a thing that you can think of at GitLab in terms of feature. Like I'm just trying to justify it. It's zeros. I'm pretty sure it's zero customers have asked for this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you think that's primarily because a lot of our customers are tracking their project work outside of the application?
I think that's a huge thing where our issue management adoption is not as high as us, obviously, and a lot of them is using GitLab merge requests. I think a lot of them people are using the notification sort of out of the box and it's good enough. But I'm pretty certain that, again, we don't have data to back this up. I'm pretty certain our customers are just not using to-dos. Like, who's going to use GitLab to-dos? Like if you're a customer, again, if you're using Jira and GitLab merge requests and all these things, right? So that's my suspicion why we have very little feedback. There's zero feedback from customers. I've never had a customer complain about to-dos and notifications. And it's always a GitLabber saying, I do this a certain way and I want this. And so we sort of defended and said like, oh, we'll add more of this and more of this. So the way I think about to-dos and notifications, it's a mess because I don't think anybody would dispute with my claim that there is a lot of overlapping functionality between to-dos and notifications. I think where the argument is to be had is conceptually, are they the same? Can they be merged? Should we purposely keep them separate? How should they evolve? But I don't think there's a debate that like all these things here are notifications, right? And then there's a lot of overlap with this, right? The most obvious one is if you leave a comment on an issue, you're going to get a notification and you're going to get a to-do. Somebody mentions you. That's so obvious. And then you start going down step by step, then there's like so many more like edge cases. So that's why this is a really difficult problem to solve. So there's a couple of ways that people have wanted to address this. One of them is they want to just ram more and more notifications And if you go to here, this is really messy. And if you were not to overhaul the system, which I'm essentially proposing, you could do a pretty good job of cleaning this up. Like, this is just terrible UI. It's really confusing. It's repetitive because you can go to the group to toggle this, and you can toggle it here. And this is just not a good design. It's really confusing. And like, why is this thing here? This just looks ugly, right? So there's so many things wrong with this, but you can improve it, right? And so a path is to improve notifications on its own. And then the other path, I mean, it's the same path. The other thing to do is improve to-dos. And so the thing to improve to-dos is to add more things here so that, make projects and group filtering better, to make the different types more types, so that there's only 3 objects here, but you can do a lot more in GitLab, right? And then like make them more granular, like where you directly mention or you're not mentioned, and so on and so forth. So more filtering, improving this particular UI so that you can manage this better. So more states, what have you. So those are the 2 things that people have asked to do, which is natural. They're iterative changes. What I'm proposing with this is I want a unified stream of objects that are created when something happens. And so my concept is that where you have notifications, right, on your screen, which is this, you won't have to-dos anymore. So it doesn't really matter whether you call them notifications or to-dos, but you just have a constant stream of things that get sent to you, right? And then this is one-to-one with email notifications. So again, there's consistency there. And then what you do is you can pin these or mark them as done. So similarly like the inbox or Gmail. And that would be analogous to when you click add to do here, you're generating a to-do. That's similar to this, you're generating a to-do on a particular issue. But whether you call them notifications or to-do. So my great idea is just essentially just merge to-dos and notifications, have one stream of these objects, and then you manage them as such. And then so the implementation detail would be whether you can archive them, whether you delete them, whether you mark them as done or undone, whatever language you want to do. But my great innovation is that there should just be one stream of information and not 2 separate streams of information. A lot of people have argued one way or another. People have said, like, is this like a mobile app? Is this like, Twitter, Facebook, you have notifications? Not really. This is more like a work app. And our to-do is the same thing as notifications. So I'm a strong proponent of, I don't really care what you call them. I just want one set of things, and stop making me think about that. But that's where I land.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. My on-the-fly feedback is, for you and I, like strong users and proponents of like the inbox application. Like, I think I would personally like love this, right? Like, you and I are archivers. As soon as we see something, we don't ever want to. We always want to get to inbox 0. We're either archiving something immediately, or in inbox speak, like marking it done,
right,
or snoozing it, or pinning it.
Exactly. Yep.
So that makes sense. I think the biggest reason I don't use to-dos, though, to be honest with you, and I think this is like an interesting MVC change proposal, so I want to get your thoughts on it, is the biggest reason I don't use to-dos, let me show you. Oh, I can't share my screen, it's okay. Is because like when it says, hey, someone mentioned you on this, and it says, say someone mentioned you on merge requests 213547, and I'm just like, I don't know what that is. Like, I would much rather say like, hey, so-and-so mentioned you on merge request, add Eric to team.yaml.
Yep.
And then I have the context for like what that to do is, and then I can quickly like peruse the list and say, okay, I need to focus on this one now, or that one at this point. How it is today, like I can't even do like a cursory prioritization to see what's most important.
Right.
So I don't know if we've talked about that, and the same for issues as well. I mean, it's not, hey, they addressed you on, pick one, scope labels.
Mm-hmm.
Like they addressed you on issue 65179.
Right.
So that might be a change right there to kind of get me to potentially use it. But yeah, as of right now, I don't use to-dos at all. So I think any change, it's like, to draw on a musical analogy.
Right.
If you're playing an instrument and you're out of tune, like the worst thing you can do is like not touch your tuning side.
Right.
Like if you don't know your sharp or flat, that's okay. Just pull it or push it, and then if it gets worse, start going the other direction.
Sure.
If it gets better, keep going.
So I'll share with you one thing, and I think we're making good time. So yeah, I'm pretty much done. So the main reason I reached out to Jeremy, because I noticed that he was doing a lot of good changes to here. So this is actually pretty new. Like this view is, or this style is pretty new. It looks really crisp. I like it. And so they've been doing a lot of, I don't know why I'm clicking around like that. They've been doing this things. And then so the opportunity I saw here is that these events are the same as these events here, as the same events in my email, as the same events in a comment thread inside an issue. So there's 4 places where information is duplicated. So that's where I saw like a big opportunity to do some innovation and clean up. I think GitLab is really bad at that. Like it's really not in our DNA so that we can address something big like that. We can make some big plans and inch towards that, but I don't think we have the wherewithal to actually do something big like that. So I wouldn't even, like, if I were to do this, I wouldn't even claim to do that. I would only want to merge 2 of those 4 things I mentioned, which is like to-dos and notifications, which would make sense because they're both part of plan, right? But ideally, it would even be the same event object. This event object would drive like 4 places, and those 4 places could have different HTML styles, right? But it would be the same one event bus that drives all that, and I think that would be pretty compelling.
Interesting. Here's an interesting thought, which would be, what would it take for us to develop a system, whether we call that a unified notification to-do system or just a new like message center in GitLab, to prevent anyone at GitLab, any employee at GitLab, from ever having to log in to Gmail, except for the odd case where you have that random email thread with someone external?
Well, I mean, we just paste notifications into, we just have a different UI that says notifications. That's all it would take. Right? I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah. I think that could be an interesting goal in our dog food everything mantra.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, I know. Yeah, dude. I know. Like, I haven't surveyed people, so I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm sure like it's probably like 50-50. People use notifications, people use to-dos, and some people use both. But I think most people use more of one than the other. Is my understanding of how people operate in GitLab. So yeah, that's
cool. All right, this is super helpful. Yeah, this is great. So I wanted to kind of come up a little bit from the weeds, so to speak, because this is great. And obviously, we've got things scheduled into 2021, which is awesome. But if you could push pause on anything, on everything that we're doing. If you could push pause on everything that we're doing for Plan, and you don't have to worry about technical debt or scheduling bugs or security optimizations. What is the next thing that you're working on?
I think it's I think it's something new, obviously, and the reason why I think it's something new is because in my mind, project management is done at GitLab. There's nothing else to do. It's good enough. In GitLab spirit, issue boards is good enough. Issues is good enough. Portfolio management is not good enough, but like Epics is good enough for project management. So you have other tools that have epics and user stories or whatever. So that's good enough. So what's missing is portfolio management. So that's a new area. So I would do that and work on. So that would be one area I would work on. There'll be a couple. I'll list them. It would be portfolio management, but it would be like ROI analysis. It would be like finances and stuff like that, where it's not work breakdown structure. It's all the like other stuff, like really corporate, people in business suits stuff. That aspect of portfolio management, that'll be number one. Another one would be going after Zendesk or Salesforce. So either Service Desk or GitLab, GitLab Salesforce or CRM. So I don't know what I'm talking about. So GitLab CRM, right? So I think there's a lot of interesting things there with GitLab CRM, because just Service Desk brought me to thinking about GitLab CRM, and then you start getting into like, do we create one of those marketing tools where you collect leads and then you all these, like just any CRM thing, right? I think there's a lot of opportunity there because we're really good at just managing information at scale, like the GitLab application, right? And so we don't have a concept of customers. We have a concept of users and work, but not customers. So I think that would be pretty compelling. And then the third thing, so number one is portfolio management. Number two is CRM. Number three, I think an area of pursuit would be just all these ideas germinating in the marketplace where they're figuring out how to do collaboration in a new way. And then some of them is like short video clips. Some of them is really chat-based and Slack-ish. Some of them is a lot of wiki-ish stuff. So you have Loom is one of them that does the video thing. Notion is really hot, that does the project management and like just like wikis and just does everything. And just picking one of those areas and trying to execute or trying to find something unique. And so, for example, Slight is another one that does like Google Docs, essentially, collaboration. So like in GitLab, it would maybe like reinventing the wiki and then combining it with a workflow, or maybe making Google Docs really awesome so that collaboration is possible. I don't know, but that would be my third area where really that would be the riskiest one, like just trying to reinvent collaboration. And I think that is a pretty interesting space where it's not a description and then a comment thread underneath, because that model is pretty good. I mean, I'm sure a lot of companies have had amazing exits because of that model.
It's definitely the dominant design, right? For
exactly.
pretty much anything collaboration-wise on the web.
Exactly. But my contention is that a lot of people are experimenting with different things. So why is that the case? Is that if there's companies that are surviving experimenting, that means there is a need for it. And so again, like, is it video, right? Is it really the video aspect, or is it merging the two, or is it more starting from chat instead of a more evergreen object such as an issue? So that's not clear to me what that is, or I don't think anybody is clear. That's why people are experimenting. So if you tell me to hit pause and then start again, that would be a space for exploration, I think.
Cool. That's helpful. Well, Victor, thanks so much for doing the roadmap dump. I appreciate you walking me through it. And, for the new plan team members in the future, I think it'll be really beneficial.
Sure.
So I appreciate that. And hope you have a good rest of your day.
Okay, you too. Talk to you next time.
All right. Bye.